my God, you have no idea how happy I am to see you because it has been way too long. How are you? I miss you. I love you to death. And again, I'll say I miss you. How are you? Because seriously, it's been way too long.
Uh, Miss you too, first of all. It's been forever. I actually don't even remember the last time I saw you. It might have been SoCan Awards like years ago.
I
And
was trying, yeah, and sorry to interrupt you. It was either SoCan Awards. It could have been. This is how long. Much Music Video Awards. It could have been.
gee,
Um, it could have even been an interview that we did, of course, when we were talking about Virginia the Vegas and his stinky feet. But that's another story. It's just been way too long, and it's crazy that I'm seeing you. And I could say this because I've known you for such a long time. And in fact, for folks who don't know this, I was the very first person to interview you. I see you now all grown up. You look amazing woman. Like, I'm
thank
so
you.
happy for what you've been doing.
Well, have you know you're the first person to interview me again since coming back into my project. So that's two firsts now.
Oh, I love this. What have you been up to all this time?
Uh, Writing.
Hmm.
I have I kind of took a back seat in my own career for a little bit, and I was just focusing on songwriting for other people. And no one else knows this. You're actually the only person that knows this now. But I actually kind of switched over to the other side of the industry for a little bit and started doing creative direction. So I've still been here. I just was kind of dabbling.
Well, no, that's a smart thing to do. Artists like yourself who have staying power will do that because that's just the evolution of a performer to try and do other things. I want to go back to when we, first met and the music and basically growing up in our eyes. What was that like for you? Because we just see the end product. We just see you on stage and we hear the music. But growing up, family, friends, school, what was that like for you? And also, as much as we are a community, it's still competing for the charts and trying to get your music somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks probably more glamorous and fun than it is sometimes. High school was kind of weird for me because we released Alone Again in my last year of high school. So, I mean, in high school, I don't think there's anything that you can do right. So sorry, the joys of Zoom is my dog has gone and found her favorite bone. Char, maybe could you hold off for a minute, my love?
Yeah, no, we've just seen a butt and a tail going back and forth.
Yeah, it's her birthday tomorrow, so I have
Ah,
to let her eat her bone. But if she can
okay.
nibble quietly,
No problem.
I mean, there's nothing really in high school that you can do right as a 17-year-old. So,
It's okay. It's okay. You know what? It makes it all real. Go. Keep going. I love this.
Char, she's now lost the bone under the table. Here, I'm gonna put her in a different room.
Okay. This is the life of a recording artist. You never know what is going to happen, but
No,
it's a nice way to even get to see a little bit of your life away from the business.
it's full-time doc mom. That's my
There you
life.
go. I love it.
So we released Alone Again when I was in my last year of high school. I was working at Tim Hortons. You know that
Yeah.
because I'm pretty sure I knew you while I was still working there.
Yep.
So I was kind of like trying to live that like Hannah Montana double life, which was um it was fun but very stressful. Especially with like the joys of teenagehood is it got a little hectic at some points, and I think that music was a good outlet for me during that time. One thing I think people don't really know is that it's kind of hard to make friends.
I was
um,
going to ask you about that. It's not just friends, but even when you want to have, one-on-one relationships with boyfriends or whatever, that had to be tough back then.
well, yeah, because well, if you ask anyone now who their friends are, people are like, oh, I don't even really talk to the people that I like went to high school with. All my friends are through work or through college. And I didn't really get either of those. So I still have my friends from high school, and then the friends that I've met in the industry. But as an artist, one thing I've realized since moving over to creative direction and kind of like dabbling in that a little bit is it's a lot easier to make friends in the music industry when you're not an artist. It's
Uh,
very difficult to make friends as an artist.
it's tough, and people don't understand that because it's really trying to find out who are your friends for who you are, not about what you do, where you've been, who you've met, where you're going, and those kind of things, which is tough too. You know, it's funny because one of the things we talked about too, and this is kind of like when we first kind of met from YTV's The Next Star. And I don't want to knock YTV or anything, but it seems like because I just spoke with another artist who had the same experience. She won, but when she talked about The Next Star, it was negative. Why do you think there a lot of artists who went through that and you went through it? Why was there such a negative tone with something that should have been a positive experience?
Um, I know personally a lot of us had very different experiences on that show. Um, I had a horrible experience on that show for a few reasons. I was going through, um, actually, today is the anniversary of my cousin's death. So he was battling leukemia the entire time I was filming that show. I was 15, he was 17. And it was essentially a TV show as much as it's marketed to be about music and the industry. It's a TV show at the end of the day. So we're on like 13-hour filming days, and I have no ability to go visit my cousin who's literally dying 5 minutes away at the children's hospital. So for me, I had like that personal thing that I was going through. And then also you put a bunch of 15-year-olds together competing for this elusive ticket to Hollywood or whatever we were promised at the end of that show. And it's essentially a lot of bullying. And there wasn't really a support system set up for that, especially because I was on the first season of it. So in my experience, when I reached out to the production team as a 15-year-old kid and was like, hey, my experience is like kind of being overshadowed by the fact that I'm being bullied by other contestants, I was told that they are producers, not babysitters, and to figure it out myself.
It's horrible.
So that was my experience on the show. Was I'm getting bullied at the show I don't want to be at because I would rather be at the hospital with my cousin who I'm losing time with, and like I was contractually obligated to be there, and it was not pleasant for me.
How did all of these experiences that you've gone through actually help create the woman you are today, not just personally, but also as a businesswoman too? Because as we said, just because we haven't seen you on stage and releasing before, you kept going. Where did you find that strength?
I just think there's um, a drive to keep going that's kind of been kind of like pushed on me from my family my entire life. In every aspect of my life, it's just like this kind of like survival instinct that I've had my entire life. And there's obviously days where I haven't wanted to keep going, days where I'm like, what if I had just gone to college and like picked a different career that doesn't make people roll their eyes when you tell them what you do for a living? Like, what if I had gone, maybe I guess safe is the better word. What if I had gone a safer route? Um, but at the end of the day, I always like go back to that quote where they say, if you do what you love, then you never work a day in your life. And I love writing songs. That's where my heart is. That's when I'm the happiest, is when I'm writing songs and when I'm on stage singing those songs that I wrote with the people that allow me to make those songs. those are my happy places. And I don't think that there is any office I could sit in that would be worth not relentlessly pursuing it.
And you do it so well. And I'm so glad. And let's face it, when you're a creative person, which is why we're in this industry, when you have that in your blood, you can't get rid of it. It's that itch will always be there, and you can never scratch it enough, and that's for sure. When did that itch start back for you to not just write songs, but write songs for yourself and release songs for yourself?
I honestly never even thought it was going to be a possibility for me. When I've always wanted to be a singer. You asked me at 3 years old what I want to do. I'm like standing on picnic tables at the campground, putting on shows for everyone. Like I always wanted that, but I didn't see it as a tangible career ever, until I actually had a record deal in front of me and a team that allowed that dream to happen. Like that was not something that I was going to be able to achieve on my own. It was only once I met the right team and the right people who believed in me and who wanted to like start climbing up the hill with me that that actually became a tangible thing.
But
Until
what
then, it
about
was just like poetry that I was writing in my diary.
recently though? The fact that you said that you sort of stepped away from the spotlight, you worked in the background. When did that itch start again for you that you were like, you know what? I need to get back out there again. I need to be the face in front of that microphone, and my voice needs to be heard.
I think that there are some songs that I wrote, one of them being the song that's coming out on February 11th, that are just so personal, and maybe even kind of a little bit painful to write and to share, that it seems like a disservice to myself to just give that song away to someone um like it doesn't hold the meaning that it actually truly has for me. I've always tried, to be incredibly honest in my songwriting, and that is the most important thing in building a connection with people, and that's why everyone turns to music when they're not okay, is because we need to know that we're not alone in those experiences. And I think if I'm going to share such personal stories and try and convince other people that it's okay to talk about your mental health when it's shit too, not just when you're happy, then I need to um, be there and say, this is my story. And if I can talk about my story, then I'll be there to help you talk about yours too. And I think there's just a bunch of songs that I wrote that it just kind of was like too important to me to be like hiding behind the lyrics, I guess.
Then let's talk about what's the latest single right now, because some of the songs that I have heard, um, and this probably explains, and I'm glad we went into this interview the way we have, because this is definitely a different side of you that I've seen visually and have heard. What's the latest single and what's that about, please?
So I released a song top of the year called Mean, and then we have another one coming out in February called Roses. And Roses is uh, my first real, like, open, lay it all on the line mental health kind of talk. And it feels very different from everything previously because I've always kind of thought that I needed to smile and be happy and bring joy, and that it was my job as a songwriter, if you were given a platform, to use that platform for good. And I always thought that that meant I always had to be happy and bubbly and bright, and everything had to be palatable. And I think the reason that maybe the project feels like it's had that shift is because I've realized that um, having those hard conversations sometimes are more important than having the bright, joyful ones. And that there's a need for those conversations, and that there is power in knowing that you're not alone in your experiences.
Are we looking at EP or album?
For now, just kind of gonna, I have a giant catalog that is far surpasses the amount of songs for either of those. So we're just kind of releasing them one by one at this point. We'll kind of see if it turns into a bigger project. But for now, it's just kind of things are changing every single day. We're still writing every single day and swapping songs out literally.
Are we going to look at it? Is this going to be more of a concept album, do you think? Is this going to be, are we looking at, I always like to use the term, people have always said, and again, you know, you can say yes or no. People always say that the Beatles' White Album was their greatest album, or Sgt. Pepper's. Is this your White Album, or is this your Sgt. Pepper's album that could be coming out soon?
Um, I mean, I have never even dreamed of comparing myself to
No,
the
no.
Beatles, to the masterpiece that is Sgt. Pepper's or White Album. Um, but I mean, I think it's an important album for me, for sure. I think it's probably my most honest album. Um, and it's just, it's life as it's happening. So whether that's going to become a concept album or if it's going to be packaged at the end as one big project, kind of depends on like where life goes from here, you know, because we're writing in real time and sharing it in real time. We didn't write this stuff like 2 years ago. This is getting done right now as we're going, and life as we're experiencing it right now.
If we could hop into the Back to the Future DeLorean and head back just before you started YTV The Next Star. If I could get you to meet young you, 15-year old you back then, what advice do you think you would have given yourself back then?
That's tough because when time travel's tricky, I've learned from watching The Flash, is that you have to be very careful in what you say because it changes the entire trajectory of the future.
Yes,
So like,
exactly. That's why I asked the question.
yeah, so I don't know if I would change anything, which means like maybe the only thing that I would say to myself is I would find a way to like relieve a little bit of the self-doubt. And I know that's a hard thing to do, to for anyone, is to get past self-doubt. But um I did not believe in myself for a really long time. And I don't know what we like seek the validation for, like how we measure success, but I think maybe if I could have found a way back then to let myself know that as long as I'm being true to myself, then I'm on the right track, I think it would have made the last decade a little easier on me, but wouldn't change anything.
What about the future? 2022? Are we looking at maybe some performances as things slowly start opening up?
Oh yeah.
Virtual or in person? What's going to happen with that?
I'm dying to perform in person. For me, virtual, just there's that connectivity that's missing. I've kind of chosen to not do those unless absolutely necessary, because for me, performances are all about that connection. That's what I love. So we had so many tours that we were looking at and shows that we were scheduling, and then we went back into a lockdown. So we've had to put a pin in those, but the second we're good to go and it's safe for everybody, that's my number one priority.
Two more questions. You and Derek, are you guys ever going to do another collaboration? Maybe? I don't know.
I'm not sure if we'll collaborate song-wise again. We just recently did a collaboration on his project, more from the creative director side of it. I helped creative direct his last video that he did and his photos, and that was fun to work with him in that way. But as far as song goes, I feel like, especially with this new shift for the project, maybe sonically we don't really line up right now.
That's
I'd be a
okay.
little too dark.
It's okay. Just so you know, it is on my iPod, so it pops up every once in a while. It, like I said, one of my all-time favorite songs. You guys are great together.
Thank you.
Last question. What advice can you give somebody out there who are, because we are going through tough times. I mean, the last 3 years with COVID and everything and different world. What advice can you give somebody that hopefully it'll get them to keep going, keep that train going?
Yeah, it's been an unprecedented time. It's affected everyone in very different ways, whether that's mental health or jobs or whichever way people were affected. I think there's a really big mental health crisis going on right now, on top of everything, all the other struggles that this pandemic has brought on. And I would probably send this message directly to those that are struggling with the mental health aspect. I know it feels really lonely in isolation. I know that this entire thing is incredibly anxiety inducing and very stressful, and just to know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and as alone as people can feel right now during this time, we're all alone but together. We're all going through it. There are people that are rooting for you and want you here, and however we get through it, we'll be stronger for it. And I love you and my heart is with you.
Love you too. I'm so proud of you. Congratulations on the music. I'm
Thank
so
you.
crossing fingers that when things clear up, that we can see each other. Because I'm gonna give you a bear hug that you haven't gotten before from anybody.
Yes,
So
please, those are my favorite.
so proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. So nice talking to you.